I'm back with Sally Tether, and the topic that we want to talk about today is self-compassion. We'll talk about why that matters and how it can affect the chronic pain journey and how we heard of it, how we had or didn't have self-compassion when we first started our journey, and how that's developed over time and how we think that it's made a difference, that sort of thing. I want to talk about, first of all, what it is. In preparing for the episode, I started looking at Kristen Neff's work. She's from the University of Texas in Austin, and she's one of the world renowned leaders in this topic of self compassion. On her website, it says, with self compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and support we give a good friend. She says self compassion is simply the process of turning compassion inward. We're kind and understanding rather than harshly self critical when we fail, make mistakes, or feel inadequate. We give ourselves support and encouragement rather than being cold or judgmental when challenges and difficulties arise in life. I think it's important to put that as the basis of what we're talking about. Why this is so important, I think, is that there has been a known personality type that has been attributed to people with chronic pain and people who suffer more. You're a perfectionist or you're hard on yourself, you have this big inner critic. And with self compassion, we can turn that and face inward and be more kind to ourselves and have this more gentle approach to the healing journey, which helps in general everything. When you're in pain, self-compassion can actually bring that pain level or the perceived pain level down. So this is why we're talking about it. I think it's super important to understand it and see how it can potentially help you. You can spot in yourself how you haven't been so self-compassionate and how you can turn the corner and add a little bit of this. I wanted to just talk to you first, Sally, about when you were in chronic pain. Do you think you had much self-compassion?
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
No. I thought as the years went on, I actually believed that I'd done something to deserve the pain, which I know sounds very strange, but I thought it must be something I'm doing wrong. Which now I look back and I think that sounds so bizarre. It's almost strange to say it, but no, I did not. Obviously, I knew self-compassion was a thing, but or did I? Even at the start of this journey, I wasn't able to access it quickly. It took a long time of learning about it and not implementing it at all initially. And then one day I started to try it because it was talked about so much. I thought, what have I got to lose? But it just did not come easy to me at all.
Where was it talked about? What do you mean in this
Yeah, I was,
space of healing chronic pain?
yeah. So when I used the Curable app, there was a lot of meditations about self-compassion and I would listen to them. And then obviously following Nicole Sachs, the 3 legs of her stool. The last one is patience and kindness for yourself. Didn't really implement that at all. I believed that I had mind body, TMS. I believed that my migraines were that. And I found it quite easy to access my emotions through journaling. But the self-compassion bit, I just put that to the back. I honestly didn't think, how much good can that do? I just didn't find it an important aspect initially. It was only after doing more meditations, listening to people that were recommended, like Kristen Neff. I've definitely listened to a lot of her stuff. And Tara Brach, I've read her book, Something About the Gold. Can't remember. I've read her latest book. And that's really helpful. I'm so into it now. It's like my biggest thing that I'm enjoying. Every single time I think of something negative about myself, I just say, no, I put my hand on my heart straight away. I notice it if I notice it, and I say, embrace that aspect of myself rather than criticize it. It does take a long time because you don't realize how much you put yourself down or berate yourself or beat yourself up until you pause and think, I'm doing that again, and then try and not change it, because these things about ourselves we're not going to be able to change, but just give ourselves the kindness that we deserve, and it helps. I think with the type T personality, one of the things is we are so hypersensitive to life. So if we have a night out, or if we have a busy work day, or we put too much on our shoulders, the sensitivity. I used to hate the fact that I was a sensitive person. I used to almost fight against it. Well, why am I so sensitive? Other people can do this, that, and the other. Why can't I? Whereas now I think, oh, it's part of a little superpower I've got. I'm sensitive, but I'm also really kind. And it also brings a nice aspect of my personality rather than thinking of it as a negative thing. Yes, I am sensitive. I always will be a sensitive person, and that's okay. I am okay. So yeah, big thing for me.
The type T personality, some people won't know what that means. And this is the personality type that I mentioned at the beginning, that there have been some attributed personality that create stress within you. So perfectionism or being a goodist, like you always want to do good, you want people to like you, harsh inner critic, low self-esteem, not wanting to fail, all these type of things. And one aspect, because I don't resonate at all with being a hypersensitive person at all. If anything, I'm the opposite of that. A hardened, I don't know. It sounds terrible, but I feel like my defense mechanisms went into the hardened route and cutting off all feeling. We've talked about this before. You have good touch with your feeling. I don't, for whatever reason. Well, I know what reasons. It's defense mechanisms over the years that I don't want to look at that piece. And that's the brain's, the subconscious trying to avoid feeling some of those feelings. But yeah, so the sensitivity piece of it might be an aspect for some, but not necessarily. If somebody's listening to this and it doesn't resonate, it's not necessarily that that is attributed to you having chronic pain, but it could be because hypersensitive people, if you're really empathetic and you're feeling a lot of your feelings, that also can be something that is causing internal stress. It's bringing up traumas or feelings that are hard to feel and all these different things. You just reminded me of something, though. One of the things that I was reading as I was looking at self compassion is that this community of people that are suffering are known to be really empathetic and good people and caring people, and to a fault almost, that we're looking out after everybody else and not ourselves at all. One of the things I had read, and I think it was Kristen Neff, had said, you just need to turn this inward. It's all traits that we're really good at. It's just we're not good at doing it for ourselves. We're good at doing it for everybody else, but it's looking inward and saying, how would I treat my friend if they were in chronic pain? If my friend had a migraine, I would be like, are you okay? Can I get you anything? Having empathy for them instead of what the hell did you do wrong? What trigger did you encounter? You know what I mean? I just beat myself up all the time when I was in chronic pain. When any kind of pain came up, it was self-sabotaging behavior of not being kind at all. So the point is that we have those traits. We're good at those traits for others. We just have to look inward and try to self-soothe. I've read it too, of how you would treat a child with pain, and you would really cater to that child and be soothing, and what's the tone of the voice that you would use and that kind of thing. I really liked that concept of just looking at it as we already have the ability. We just need to turn it inwards. And that's not so easy, though. When I was asking you at first, were you aware of self compassion or how did this come about for you? I just don't think that we were taught that. As kids, you're taught that you should be nice and be helpful and whatever to others, but it was never talked about in my household anyway, of looking after yourself and being kind to yourself. That just wasn't a thing that I knew about until I think I stumbled upon this work like you did and started hearing about self-compassion is important. There's even a stigma on it, to be honest. Like some people think it's selfish to be doing self-care and be self-compassionate and looking out for yourself. So that's one of the hurdles I think that we need to get over when doing this work.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's three aspects of self-compassion that I wanted to mention. The first one is mindfulness, that you actually need to be in the moment and in the here and now so that you're able to turn towards the suffering, be with it without avoiding it and resisting it and pretending it's not there. So Kristen Neff was saying that if you are wallowing in the pain, you can't step outside yourself and have compassion with yourself. So you have to be in the moment at some point and have this mindfulness that you can admit that there's a struggle and that you need compassion and soothing in some way. Because she was saying, if you don't see that, if you're not in the moment, you're not aware of it and you're skating by it. You don't know what you don't know, I guess, is part of that. One thing I was thinking about last night, actually, in a conversation I was having with a friend of mine that's in this work, is that for so much of the work, we're trying to push aside fear, don't have the brain sense that there's fear, so the nervous system doesn't get all dysregulated and that pain doesn't spike. What I realized last night is I've been doing that so much that I've been just basically pushing aside, like, oh, no, not a problem here, brain, not a problem. And her point was, she's another coach actually for this chronic pain. And she said, but you're not even acknowledging the fact that you're suffering, that being in the moment and saying, you know what, this actually sucks and this actually is not fun. And I am fearful that this is coming back, or I have a symptom now. And where's this coming from? The reality of it can be not a fun experience. And you're in that moment to say, okay, but I can be self compassionate with myself to know that it's not going to last forever. It's a moment in time. I can feel the fear, and making sure that you're feeling safe. Self-compassion helps you do that, is to help you feel safe and cared for and not traumatized, beaten up that you're fearful now and you can't do that because you're doing it wrong and all this kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Yeah, you can, self-compassion can come into your life at any moment. It doesn't have to be just regards to the pain. I use it in everything. I use it if I'm having a difficult time or a conversation, or I'm worried about something and I'm ruminating on it. And then I pause and realize I'm doing that to myself. And then I'm like, this is a really hard decision to make. I really feel for you. I look in the mirror and do it.
Oh, that's good.
And I say, yeah, this is not easy at the moment. Maybe the decision isn't there in front of me, but I will think of it, and I'm not going to make it harder for myself by going over and over and over, ruminating on it. I'm just going to sit with it. So I use it not just with the pain, with anything that I find difficult in life.
Yeah.
So I don't go down the rabbit hole of rumination on the same thing, because I don't think that helps. Just to pause and realize what we're doing, realize when the inner critic's there, realize when we're trying to get something perfect and we're not happy with how something's turned out. Just to pause and say, hey, it doesn't have to be great, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you've done your best. I'm always saying to myself, you did your best.
That's a really good point, that it's not just about the pain. I'm focused on that with this, or what I was just saying, but it's when you can do it in all aspects of your life, like you're doing, then it lessens the chance that the pain comes because you're already
Exactly.
soothed and you're already being compassionate with yourself and you're already, yeah, I love that. That's a good point.
Because a lot of the time the pain comes when you're being hard on yourself. So
Right.
if you stop being so hard on yourself, or notice when you're doing it, because you can't stop forever being hard on yourself when it's so ingrained. But if you can notice and pull back on that and say, yeah, that's really hard, and then it just dissipates. It's not
Mm.
so big. A big one for me, as I've told you, is if my kids are struggling, it just totally affects my nervous system. But I'm getting so much better with that now. And that's because instead of going over and over something that I'm worried about, that clearly affects me and my nervous system, and then my brain says, oh, if you're going to keep getting upset about this, then you'll probably end up with a migraine in the morning. That always creeps in. So now I say, this is really hard, but it doesn't mean to say I have to take it on. I can take a step back from it and be compassionate to myself in that moment, rather than continue the rumination of the worry. So it's about jumping in or noticing or pausing, because once you've given yourself some compassion in that moment, your brain's not thinking about how big the problem is.
Mm.
You know, you've distracted your brain in a good way by being kind to yourself.
Yeah. And calmed everything down. Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
does help.
Definitely.
It helps so much.
I think that's a really good point that just came out of this, that it's all in life, every aspect, just being more aware of it and realizing when you start to have thoughts that go down that route of being not so kind to yourself
I
and
mean, the
catching it,
key
and
is
to be,
noticing when you're doing it, isn't it?
yeah, that's not so easy either, but it gets easier, I think,
It
over time.
does. It
And
does.
without awareness, you can't do any of it really. Yeah. Once you have the awareness of what this is and why it's important, you can start catching it a bit and then what to do with that. It leads into the second one that Kristen Neff says about the three aspects of self compassion. So the one we just talked about is mindful. You need to be mindful of it, aware of it. And the second one is kindness. So, to what you were just talking about, you need to be understanding, warm, caring versus this harsh judgment of yourself. So, as things come up, not perceiving it as a failure or mistake, our first reaction a lot of times is to judge ourselves. That's how the brain is wired, actually. We've got this negative bias. The brain is set up to keep us alive and to keep us safe. So, it's always looking for the problem, essentially. And
We're
so,
constantly surveying the horizon for
right.
issues.
So, if that's our first instinct, we need to basically retrain our brain to start looking at things. Okay, I catch that, and that's not a problem. She says, actually, when you catch it, there's the three things. And I think you were discussing this too, that you spot it, you label it of what it is. Okay, I'm really being harsh on myself, or whatever the case may be. And then you feel it in your body, which I like. You keep touching your chest and you actually go into the body. This is one of my hard parts, that I'm very much in my head, and I stay in my head when I have the thought or have the feeling come up. I'm starting to overanalyze it immediately. And just you touching your chest makes me know that you are somatic, as far as you then feel it's right here. I need to sit with this. That's great that it's advanced in my mind, because I'm just so up in my head. I'm trying to train myself to get back down into my body.
I think initially when I did start with this, it was hard and I had to remind myself of it, and it didn't come natural at all. It wasn't something I'd ever done. So it felt a bit like I should give it a go. You're not holding out much hope because this is what's being said that I should be doing. But now I genuinely think it's helped me so much, and it does just come naturally to me. But I don't know where the transition was, where I found it hard and it was a bit strange, to now really enjoying that part of
Mm,
my journey. I don't know where that was. It's a bit like when people say, when did you turn a corner and start to get better? It's hard to pinpoint that time of
yeah.
when you notice a huge change, because it's such a gradual process. Your whole journey of recovery is a gradual process the whole way through. So I don't know how long I've been feeling like this. All I know is I've catch myself doing it several times a day. Hey, yeah, that was difficult. But look, it's fine. It's fine. This is what you're doing. You're doing your best and you're on your journey. I have a mantra that I say, which is all part of it. It's comforting.
What do you say? The mantra. Do you mind sharing it?
No, not at all. I say, I am healing, I'm on the right track, and I'm right where I need to be. And I used to say it a lot, constantly, when the fear came up. But now I might only say it once or twice a day because I'm not so fearful. I was fearful a lot, and that's definitely dissipated. I would just put my hand on my heart and say, I am healing, I'm on the right track, and I'm right where I need to be. Quite often I'd do it in the mirror. I'd look at myself and believe what I was saying. And
Yeah, it's important to have the belief. Yeah.
yeah, that's helped me a lot.
And do you think raising the self-compassion, or this practice of what you're doing with putting your hand on your chest and just saying I'm safe, etc., that it brought down the fear? Do you think those two things are correlated?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It still comes up, the fear, but instead of trying to push it away, I sit with it and I just say, of course, you've spent years scared. You're not going to stop feeling scared overnight. You're healing. And I just repeat those things. Even when I have the pain, I constantly tell myself I'm healing.
Mm.
So the brain doesn't associate the pain as a scary thing. I'm basically turning towards the pain rather than hiding from it. And that's all been helped along by this self-compassion tool that I now use daily.
It's so interesting to hear you say that. You say, of course, you've been scared, you've been fearful all these years. It really was last night, this conversation with a friend of mine, that I realized I've been shoving that under the carpet. This is what I think was in my mind. If I admit that I'm scared, I'm going to scare my brain. And I've heard that if you scare your brain, you're going to scare the nervous system and it's going to cause pain. So I have to just be like, no, no problem. And that is the opposite. I think I realize this is why I'm having some problems right now because I've got some symptoms coming up. It's not a very self-compassionate thing to just be not even acknowledging how I actually am feeling. And I am feeling scared right now. Like, where is this coming from now? Why is this happening now? And I'm having all these sometimes doubt come in or sometimes different feeling come in. And self compassion is big now and another focus now of mine to say, yeah, of course, this is the feeling that is going to come up. Why am I trying to pretend it's not there?
These emotions, we're meant to feel them. We're not meant to not have fear. We're not, it's designed to protect us, isn't it? We're big
Yeah.
feeling people. And as these emotions come up, we should be sitting with them, embracing them, and working out, yeah, because I'm sitting with it, it's not a big deal anymore. Whereas if we turn away from it, it becomes the monster in the closet that we don't want to.
But I missed that somehow. I don't know how I even healed because I really have been like your point of sitting with it. That is the whole thing. Sit with your emotions. But for some reason, fear was separate from my emotions. I don't know, because I think I've heard so many times that fear is what is the fuel for the chronic pain and the brain feeling scared. So it's like I almost separated all my emotions, and then fear was just like this extra one that no, I can't feel because that's going to scare my brain. So
Yeah,
I
because
just
we're
wipe that
taught
one
that the
away.
fear exacerbates the symptoms. I totally get that. But if it's the enemy, if it's the
Yeah,
enemy within, the fear is, oh, don't go near the fear, don't go near the fear, because
right.
what you resist persists. So you're resisting the fear and it's going to persist. So, yeah, if you're scared about it, I always journal. Why am I feeling scared right now? Quite often I do get to why I am able to access them emotions. Not always, sometimes I think it's not made any sense, but a lot of the time I think, oh, okay, now I can see why I'm feeling like that. I do find that helpful.
Yeah, I think last night was just this big realization that, oh, I see what I've been doing all this time. And I cried for the first time in a long while because I was thinking it through and I said, oh, you are so hard on yourself still. You thought that you've been doing such a good job on this and you are still so hard on yourself. And it just made me cry thinking, yeah, like the self-compassion that you preach of being so important, where is that for yourself? Like you're not really living that. I think that was a big shift, and I hope it's going to help with going forward being a little bit more easy. You think you've got all these personality traits under control at some point, or you're aware of it, so you're mindful of it and you're trying not to do the perfectionism thing and you're trying to have the self-compassion like no, this is everything's fine and treating yourself better. And I thought I was really good at that actually. I would say I'm much better than before, but this realization of the fear was eye-opening, just of yeah, that is just another emotion that you need to sit with and have self-compassion with, because of course it's there, and you need to just sit with that you're okay, just like with a friend, just like with a child. It's okay, of course you're going to fear it and it's going to be okay. But then like you said, when you sit with it and you're allowing the feeling to come in, then, and that's the last part of this, you spot it, you label it, you feel it in the body, and then you soften, soothe, and allow it to be there, and then it dissipates.
It's
You
like
gotta.
the whole anxiety thing where you feel really anxious and initially that creates fear because you're like, why do I feel like this? Why am I in this heightened state? And then after pausing, I am able to say, okay, I feel anxious and it's scaring me a bit. So I've called it out, it's there. It might stay for a while, it might be here all day. I might say, okay, you can come with me and almost make it part of you for that day. Okay, you're going to be in the bus with me. We go along. And I have had days where
Bring your
I felt,
symptoms with you. Mm-hmm.
yeah, really anxious or my head symptoms, and I'm just able to take them with me now. Obviously, it depends the severity of them. Obviously, there are times, but I wouldn't say that I have symptoms now that I can't fulfill what I need to fulfill. It's just whether I want to. Do I want to do that now? Not really. Can I? Probably. It's a case of just letting them belong, letting your feelings with you, because all feelings should belong. They shouldn't be pushed away. I've remembered the name of the book. It's Trusting the Gold by Tara Brach, and she talks a lot about every single way you feel should belong. It all belongs. Nothing should be pushed away. No feeling should make you feel that you shouldn't feel that way. It belongs, and once you accept it, it eases off rather than it being the enemy. Definitely.
And I think that takes self-compassion to get there, because otherwise this inner critic takes over and it's, oh, you shouldn't feel angry, or that's not nice to feel whatever, or you just beat yourself up for having some of these feelings. So I do think it ties back into self-compassion of when your self-compassion is good, you just give yourself a break in all kinds of things and you allow the feeling to come in and it not absolutely destroy you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think also with when you've been doing this a while, like you have, longer than I, you expect yourself to know everything. What we need to accept, it's a lifelong journey, and we're never going to know everything. And we just have to be compassionate with ourselves, that a flare up is normal. I used to think, why? And so now I think, oh, I don't even know why, but I could get curious, but what's that going to do? It's not going to help with this particular flare. So I just try and soften towards all of that and think, yeah, I'm not one and done. I'm not finished. This journey is just the tip of the iceberg. I've still got to navigate my way through all these difficult things in life. Yeah.
Yeah, stress is always going to be there, and this human condition
But we
is.
do put so much pressure on ourselves, like, oh, we should know this by now.
This conversation I keep going back to last night was really eye-opening, because I just thought, oh, I am so hard on myself, and I just feel like I thought I was through to the other side, and I had heard about flare-ups, and I just have put so much pressure on myself to get off all medication and have no symptoms so that I could say that I am healed and I can be credible in this. If I have flare-ups, what does that mean? Am I doing something wrong? Or why does, and now I've realized everybody does. Nicole Sachs does. And
Yeah,
Dan
because you're
Ratner was just talking
human.
about something. Yeah. And it's
Yeah.
just, and that at first was like, oh, that's going to scare off people. Like, oh my gosh, this is a never ending journey. But it pretty much is a never ending journey, because we're human and we're going to be continuing to live this human life. And when I heard Nicole say that at the first time, I was like, oh, thank God. Okay, I'm normal. But I still somehow hold myself to this higher standard, because I feel like I've done so many trainings and so much information is now about how to get rid of these symptoms, that I feel like, oh, I don't know. Should, I hate that word. I usually don't use that. So it's funny that's coming back in. But yeah, that there's some knowledge that I'm supposed to have that alleviates me from this human experience, and it just doesn't work like that. But I'm still so hard on myself. Let me just tell you the third aspect of self-compassion, and then we'll move into some of the tips and how people can cultivate self-compassion. If they're just hearing about this for the first time too, they're going to be like, what is it and how do I even help myself with this? The third aspect of self-compassion, after mindfulness, being kind, or the kindness part, was recognition as a common humanity. So what we just said leads into this perfectly, about when things happen, to understand that you're going to be able to get through it, and remembering that everybody's imperfect, everybody leads this imperfect life, everybody has this human condition that's going to come with stress that we're going to have to navigate. And it puts like a reality lens on it, which in her point was the third aspect, or the third pillar to self-compassion, that you have to have that, or else you just fall down that rabbit hole of feeling like a victim, and this is only happening to me and I'm never going to get out of this, and all that kind of stuff. Let's now shift, because if somebody's hearing about this for the first time, or they've heard about it but said, yeah, okay, what do I exactly do about it? Do you remember anything that you, like, one of the
first things to say is, if you're hearing about this for the first time and it's not been part of your life, then you have to start small. You can't expect yourself just to be knowing about this and be good at it. because that put too much pressure. I'd say start with a 5-minute meditation. Insight Timer is amazing for free meditations. If you're on the Curable app, then there's plenty of self-compassion tools there. But just start small. If you can get into the body and be somatic and choose an area to, I always go like that. Sometimes I probably hug myself. Or if that's not available to you, just to lie or sit and just sit with yourself, listen to something like one of the Kristen Neff. There's so many out there, self-love, compassion, meditations. And 5 minutes is enough if you're just starting out. Or find something that resonates with you, like a sentence: I am listening. This is hard. I acknowledge this is hard and I'm listening to you. Just to tell yourself that you're with yourself, you're supporting yourself. Just say a small sentence that makes you feel loved and cared for. Yeah, hope that helps.
I like that. Yeah. It is the little things, and it is a journey. And you just heard me say that after this 4-year journey that I've been on, I'm still realizing that I'm hard on myself and I lack self-compassion sometimes. I think that you get good at it and then, or I don't know, good at it, you get better at it. And then other things come into the picture or you forget about that and you have to be reminded of it sometimes, I think too, or
Nicole Sax's podcast this week. I haven't listened to it yet, but I've heard the opening. And it's basically a lady who recovered from back pain and then 4 years down the line had a huge flare and was so frustrated with herself because she thought she was finished. And I think so many of us are doing this work, we're recovering, and then we have a flare up because life gets in the way and the pressure we put on ourselves, we think we're back to square one and we're not. It's just kindness to ourselves, which we all need to do more of. Whether it's relating to pain or not, just to be kind. Even if a friend said to you, oh, I'm having a really bad week, and it's just little things that are niggles. You say, oh, you're compassionate to a friend, you're kind, but you don't do that to yourself. You're almost annoyed with yourself for not getting this, that, and the other done. So just to pause and know when you're not being kind to yourself. That's half the battle. I think that's the initial thing we need to notice.
Awareness, definitely.
Notice what we do.
And then to turn it inward. Yeah, that's definitely. One of the other things that I had read in getting prepared for this was that touch is so important. And when a baby doesn't know how to talk. So where they get their reassurance is from either touch or a tone of a voice. And so this was saying that, have you ever done this where you place one hand on your heart and one on your stomach? Have you ever done that? That is the most magical feeling. That I just did it and my legs tingled. I don't know what that's about, but it just is a magical feeling. And what they've actually realized in fMRI studies, what's the F for? You know what an MRI is, but I can't remember the F. Anyway, what it does is it measures the brain and where emotions are sensed in the brain, or that's one of the things that it does anyway. And in these studies, it lights up the parts of the brain, that movement, just one hand on the heart, one hand on the stomach. It lights up the same parts of the brain as when you get a hug. I thought that was so interesting. So if you want to,
I do that.
like
I meditate yourself.
I do too. And I go to sleep like this is the position that I just feel so warm and loved. It just does something to the heart. It just does the aspect of being hugged. So that's a really easy one to do. And then you've done the loving kindness meditation, right? That's one that I really liked as well. What that is, if anybody doesn't know, you could Google. That's a pretty common one. There's a lot of different ones, though. I've been realizing online, some of them I don't like as much. They go too fast through the different aspects, but it's essentially feeling empathy and kindness towards yourself. And then you radiate that out to somebody that you really care for, and then somebody that you're neutral to, somebody that maybe you have a difficult relationship with, and then out to the world and out to every being and pet and everything else in the planet. And so you're focused on your heart space. And when I've done it, it just fills my heart up. Like I feel like a radiation through the heart. It feels like my heart expands. And there's mantras. I can't remember what they are, but may I be happy. May I be safe. May I be well. May I,
Healthy, yeah.
yeah, all these different things. And yeah, that's
No,
one that really makes me feel good. I like that one. Those are a good start. If somebody's not used to this, a more formal self-compassion work helps, like trying to do a meditation in the morning or trying to spotting emotions that come up and trying to have a little bit more compassion or saying these sentences or this kind of thing. And then I do think over time that it comes a bit more natural, I guess you would say.
force it. You just have to start small, a bit like the analogy with the puppy or the kitten in the corner that doesn't want to come over to you. You're not going to have to go all guns blazing and oh, I'm so compassionate to myself. It's sort of something that builds over time and gets easier and gets more natural. If you could just start off with just small little things that you can listen to and just get used to, yeah.
Yeah, it
The,
is. It is almost like a getting used to this kindness towards yourself because it's not a normal feeling. It's been decades that I was just like, oh, it's not enough. You didn't do this. You're so lazy. You're da da da. I was really mean to myself. I have a very harsh inner critic. So the first times that you're trying this loving energy towards yourself and this warmth and care, if I had migraines at the beginning, it was just, I'm safe, everything's fine. And you just focus on that heart center and just, it's just such a warmth that comes in. Now I'm good at self-care and checking in with myself all day. But again, this conversation last night made me realize, okay, yeah, I think I got a little bit complacent on the self-compassion, thinking that I was compassionate, but there's still some harshness there that I need to work around the edges. What I'm going to do is start with a more formalized thing where I'm going to start doing the meditation each day. I'm going to start doing the loving kindness one and just see how that goes.
not
Again,
initially. And most nights when I go to sleep, I do a self compassion meditation. I do all different ones, but mainly throughout the day, I just say something nice, more grounding to myself. Just tell myself that you're doing okay today, everything's okay.
it's interesting you said you do it in the mirror because I've heard this mirror work is really powerful. That if you can look in your eyes and actually believe what you're saying, that's a really has a big impact on the nervous system regulation and
I thought I would
healing.
feel silly doing it, but I actually don't. I actually look at myself and it means more because you're not just
Mm-hmm.
saying it to yourself, you can see yourself. So it feels meaningful. And I believe it. You can get quite into it. It makes brushing your teeth a bit longer.
Hey, there's worse things we could be doing with ourselves, right? It's a
Yeah.
good. Thank you so much. I really hope that helps somebody to raise awareness and then also realize that it's something to pay attention to and can help in every aspect. Even if you're not in chronic pain, this helps in general to feel good and better in life. It's actually been shown to have positive impacts on a positive state of feeling and also to bring down anxiety and depression and the feelings of pain. In all, it's a good helpful thing to be cultivating in yourself. So thanks so much, Sally, because I always enjoy having conversations with you and you always bring out different points that I think of or good tips and stuff like that. So thanks for your time and thanks for being with us again. Appreciate it.
Good to chat to you.